Welcome, Divine Hearts, and thank you so much for joining us and for being present here. This week, we have a very magical guest joining us. She is Marissa O'Neil, and Marissa is a new Earth Soul Embodiment guide. She is a Wayshower, she is a Light Keeper, and she's many, many other things too. She is quickly becoming a guide, a specialist of the physical body and the transformation that is currently underway for many of us who are traversing from this old, dense carbon-based body into a light body and light bodies. And so I'm really excited to delve a bit deep into this special and important topic with Marissa a bit later in our conversation. But first, I'm going to share with you, because I shared with Marissa a little bit earlier, about the synchronicity and the magic in my reality leading up to our connection today with Marissa. My skies, my clouds were transforming into little mermaids all throughout the week. And it took me a few days to have that aha moment. Oh, it's Marissa's energy, and it's part of, one of her aspects that's coming through for me to see and feel. And I just found it really joyous and really magical to be able to feel her and connect with her in this way, leading up to us coming together today. So thank you so much, Marissa, for being here and for being so ready to share from your heart with us. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for our conversation today. And excited to see what unfolds for us, and really appreciative of you really creating like a playground for people on this path to pick and choose what new topics they want to learn about, and discover more about themselves as they listen to the conversations that you have with light leaders all over the world. So just thank you for all the beautiful work that you do to, share all of this information and knowledge and wisdom with everyone too.
Oh, well, thank you, Marissa. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to be here too, because it's going to be such an important and really activating conversation, and the light that you bring and the heart that you bring is just going to be felt. So I'm really excited. So let's begin with your earlier journey and the pathways that you were led down and the interests that you had. I'm always fascinated because nothing is wasted in our experience, and everything has a little part to play in our expansion, in our evolution in some way. And so for you, you were drawn into the world of sports and fitness and health and wellness, and you were also an athlete, so you would push your body in various ways, in extreme ways. And so this is going to be a really interesting area that's going to expand even further a bit later. But if you will take us on that journey first.
Sure. First, I want to start with expanding to kind of see all of the journeys that we're on here on Earth, right? If you look at it, we all came to Earth to awaken to the illusions of separation, right? And to ascend our consciousness and then our physical body as well, to remember that we're all pure source consciousness light, right? And so if you look at that sort of purpose of why we're here, it's really easy to say that. And it can be a harsh journey getting there, right? And so part of all of our journeys, and then I'll share some bit of mine as well, is when our heart is open, we are deeply connected inside, and we are connected to our higher selves, to our soul, and we're open to this guidance, and we're living our life aligned with our soul's purpose, right? Yet when our heart closes, right, and we go inward, we disconnect from our higher self, we disconnect from our soul, and we're no longer open or able to hear our inner guidance. And so a lot of times we get off path, we get distracted, and we're going along a different path, and our soul sort of comes in and it's like, nope, we need to course correct you. You're not aligned. We need to break you. Usually if your heart's closed, we kind of need to be broken, right? We need to be broken. We need to be humbled and almost like shaken awake to get us fully present in our bodies, in the present moment, and really look and reevaluate our life and what we're doing and why we're doing it, so that we can raise our body's vibration and allow our higher self to come through and allow that inner guidance to come through and realign everything. And so in my early stages, and this, can be true for a lot of us, is I wasn't fully conscious, right? My heart was closed, and I was going down this path of trying to fit into this society that didn't feel aligned inside. It felt like I was like a round peg in a square hole, and it felt like nothing fit. And so a lot of my journey sort of early on was sort of bumping up against limits and fixed things that didn't feel good inside. It didn't feel pure. It didn't feel aligned on a soul level from a purity standpoint. Yet I also didn't know any better. And I did my best to kind of navigate through the matrix and out of it, but it wasn't super graceful or anything like that. So I'll share a few of my experiences that were a bit harsh, as people can kind of relate to that. But ultimately, this whole journey is really about deepening our inner connection, keeping our hearts wide open, and listening to our higher self, our soul's guidance. And when we honor that fully, life can be beautiful and magical and aligned on so many different levels. So knowing that, the beginning of my journey was not that. I was an athlete, as you mentioned, growing up as a kid. I played basketball and soccer at the state and national level. And I kind of thought like the school system didn't fit. I didn't learn that way. It felt foreign. It didn't feel aligned. And sort of my body and my energy kept fighting and trying to fit in. And it hit a point my sophomore year in high school where you could say, like, my human aspect would say I had an abusive basketball coach emotionally, and my body had shut down. I ended up having panic attacks and in the hospital. And ultimately, I ended up being in bed for an entire year. My body just gave up, and it was like no more fight, no more, like, again, sort of being out of alignment. Like, I wasn't meant to be in the school system. I wasn't meant to be fitting in that box that didn't feel aligned. And my soul was like, nope, we're going to put you in bed for 1 year, and we're going to have you, it's a 15-year-old, right? Who, I used to practice like 8 to 10 hours a day. We're going to put you in bed and not give you any energy to get up, not give you energy to go to practice or play games or even go to school or play with friends, or like not even have energy to eat or like drink water. And so I kind of spent this year in bed. And if you look at it from like a higher perspective, right, it was my light body coming online, and I needed my field to be clear so that my body could raise its vibration, so that my body could repair the damage that had occurred within my body, within my DNA, from being in a toxic environment, right? And so after spending like a year in bed and really like, what 15-year-old child like asks existential questions like, why am I here? What's the purpose of being here? Like, I don't, learning how to source your own joy, really going inward and going deep and not having any external influence by society or other people. And the cool thing about when our soul like realigns ourselves is on that journey of me discovering like what brings me joy and what can I do to sort of reclaim my life here on Earth. I met a Archangel Michael embodied in physical form. And he took me under his wing, literally, like an Archangel Michael would. And he was a strength and conditioning coach. And my soccer team went and worked out and did some weights and conditioning and everything. And he took me under his wing, and he believed in me, and he inspired me, and he empowered me, and he loved me, and he treated me just like everyone else, even though I was the weakest person on the team because I was in bed and barely eating and exhausted. I could barely do a pull-up or a push-up or any of those things that athletes like are really good at. But it didn't matter. He believed in me anyway. And his belief in me and his empowering me, actually, he had that, and he held that for me until I could hold that for myself. And so I sort of nursed myself back to health and having a will to live by being mentored by this, Archangel Michael figure embodied in physical form. And all of a sudden I had a purpose in life. My purpose was to do exactly what he did with me for others. I wanted to inspire and empower and believe in people more than they believed in themselves. And it was always around health and fitness and wellness and rehabilitation and that kind of arena. But it was like that whole experience was a blessing. It was a gift because it gave me purpose. It gave me meaning. And I went off to college with like knowing who I was and why I was here. And so sort of that one example of just like course correcting, my heart was wide open. I felt like I was on top of the world because he believed in me, inspired me, empowered me. And so that was sort of the beginning of my journey of believing that I can make a difference in people's lives through simple acts of kindness and believing and empowering them through exercise and fitness and health and honestly really listening and supporting them in whatever ways that they need it, not just in the physicality of stuff, but the sort of emotional well-being as well and everything in their lives. So that's sort of one example.
Oh, wow, that's so beautifully shared. Thank you so much. And your journey, you moved much deeper within that field too. So how did that unfold?
Yeah, so I went to college, and when I graduated, I took the job that I was least qualified for, right? And it was at a center for preventative medicine in New York City. And it was as an exercise specialist. And we had a bunch of different disciplines. So it was exercise physiology, we had massage, we had physicians, we had nutrition, we had psychotherapy. It was sort of a umbrella of treating different aspects of a physical person. And I was promoted to medical director shortly after like 6 months or a year of being there. And I loved what I did for a while. And then all of a sudden, something shifted. And it was like I had the perfect life on paper, yet something was missing. And for me, this was the disillusionment of the American dream. Growing up in America, it's like you strive for success and prestige and, accolades and all that stuff. And my clientele were like actors and actresses, professional athletes. And, I was living on the Upper West Side and right off of Central Park West. And, I had this amazing life on paper, but it was like there was something missing and I didn't know what it was at the time. Now I know it wasn't aligned with my soul. And again, like when we don't listen, our universe comes in, and I call it like an energetic 2x4, right? If we're not listening, we're not taking the subtle signs and hints, which I was listening and I felt it, but I wasn't making a radical shift in my life that I needed in that time. And so my universe again was like, well, we're going to show you. If you're not going to listen, we're going to bring you to your knees. And so my universe literally brought me to my knees. I fell, I hit my head, and I broke all the bones around my eye orbit. And the doctors were saying, if you don't have surgery, you might lose your eyesight. So talk about the sort of, I don't know what you were like, just a funny like thing is I later got my master's in psychosomatics, and the I is like, what are you not seeing in your life? Right. And so at that moment, like I wasn't seeing, I needed to make completely different changes in my life. And when I fell and I hit my head, going into surgery, it was like, well, what if I die? What if I die on the table? Am I living my life aligned with my soul's purpose? And the answer was no. If I died in that moment, it was like I was leaving a lot left undone. And I had so much more to do in this world. And so when I got out of surgery, it was like, nope, you need to make a completely different shift, right? When we get taken down like to our knees and we literally get like humbled and have to surrender and let go of control, our heart opens, right? And when our heart opens, our body's vibration can raise. And when our vibration raises, one, we can see and we can hear and feel our soul's inner guidance, right? Our higher self's guidance. And also all the old stuff, like the old wounds, old emotions, the limiting beliefs, all that stuff can go. And so when faced with this surgery and looking and having to spend time in bed, literally not moving, recovering, it's like, okay, I need to make radical changes in my life. So I left my job, I left New York City, and I bought a one-way plane ticket to Australia. And it was like, I need to go discover who I am and what my soul's purpose is on a much deeper level. And I didn't feel like I could do that in America because of this strong society conditioning. I was brought up in a very much like you need to succeed in your career and do it that way. And it went against sort of my nature. And so I needed to travel the world and learn about different cultures to really discover the true essence of my soul and what my soul has to offer people, and not what society tells me that I'm supposed to do, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and if you're not listening, it can be a bit harsh. But looking back, they're the biggest gifts because the radical shifts in our life, they realign our focus and they put us back on our path, right? And our job is to stay deeply connected inside with our hearts wide open so that we're always living aligned with our soul's purpose and our soul's missions here on earth. And so, what I've learned and then what I teach people is to listen. Right, is to keep your hearts open, is to, work on raising your body's vibration, so that you can listen, you can stay deeply connected, so that not everyone has to go through the rough and the tough and the harsh lessons and the sort of energetic 2x4s, literally getting knocked on your head. Sometimes we can't save sometimes people have to go through sort of the rough and tough to learn. But when we can share our experiences to empower others that they don't have to go through it, that's part of our missions and life's work, right? Is to guide people and make it easier for them and sort of light the way through our own experiences.
Yes, that's so beautifully shared again. Thank you. And there's so many things there, and there's so many different pathways that we could open up and move through. Yeah. But I'm just going to follow through with you in Australia and you moving around the planet at different times, experiencing different places. You and listening to you speak often makes me giggle, because if somebody says, oh, I live here, then you will say, oh, I used to live there. And so you've lived in so many places, experienced so many areas of the planet. And maybe at the time that the word grid keeper, you didn't know what that word meant, but now that you do. So speak a little bit about maybe the gifts that came from the experience of Australia, especially with high insights now, how you can look at that. And now also that you live in Hawaii, and the gifts that Hawaii is bringing you too. And just this movement and this grid keeping too.
Yeah. So, our muscles are the grids of the earth. And when we travel to sacred sites, when we travel to different places in the world, we're literally activating different codes and different frequencies, right? I want to say each planet, technically each planet is, but each country, each land has a different energy, has a different frequency, right? And so when we travel to different places, they hold a vibrational frequency that when we go there, it helps activate it within us, right? And we don't necessarily have to go there. For my soul's journey, it was a very physical journey of literally getting on a plane and traveling to these different countries. For some people, they could connect to the consciousness of that land, and that's what their soul needs. But yeah, Australia, Hawaii, Fiji, it's all Lemurian energy, right? And so I am very called to anywhere that has beautiful, clear, crystal clear aqua Lemurian waters. I'm very drawn to islands. And I never really understood why until I heard the word Mintaka. And I didn't know what it was, but it was like this resonance inside my body. And it was like, yes, 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 yes. Like, I need to know more, and I started doing research and uncovering. And, now I remember that that's actually where I'm from, right? And, Mintaka is a planet. It's a star planet in the Orion constellation. And it's one of Orion's, one of the 3 stars in Orion's belt. And it's an underwater world, right? Where we're mermaids and we swim with dolphins, and the water is, crystal clear, aqua Lemurian blue and turquoise. And the energy there is so pure. There's nothing exists but purity. And it's like this beautiful utopia in this heaven. And so, when I came into this world, it was a bit harsh, and I kept trying to search for this pure heaven. And, I found it when I went to places like Australia and Hawaii and Fiji and New Zealand and Bali. And, if you kind of notice sort of on a map geographically, it's all Lemuria. It's all, and I grew up on the eastern seaboard in Atlantis. And we get to merge Lemuria and Atlantis together and unify into one. But so for me and my soul's journey, it's been about activating those frequencies of Lemuria and Mintaka, that purity, right? When we go to sacred lands, we experience that vibrational frequency. It unlocks certain codes within us to assist us with remembering, right? And since being here in Kauai, I've had such beautiful remembrances, right? Remembering being a whale, merging my consciousness with Gaia, just like the true paradise codes coming through. And so, each land gifts us so much. And Kauai called me home, right? I was living in Australia and I didn't want to leave. My human aspect did not want to leave Australia. And my soul was like, no, you need to go to Kauai and be of service in a much greater scale, grander scale. And Kauai called me home and just sort of enveloped me. And it's just been this real beauty. So Kauai for me is probably the purest land that I've ever experienced on Earth, just the places that I've been. And I've heard others say that as well. But, we all of us are gatekeepers and grid keepers and light keepers around the world, right? And we all hold our own light frequency so that we can light up the planet, and so that we can assist the consciousness of the whole planet, and we can assist the whole planet in ascending its own consciousness within each of us, and all beings on the planet. And so it's really important that all of us, light keepers and wayshowers and guides, are sort of streamed out all over the world, so that we can be that pillars of light in that location, right? And then when one of us changes location, it changes the grids on Earth, it changes everything, and everything gets sort of reworked and And then we all move around based on energetics and gridding systems. And so it's kind of cool when you can look at it and see it. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. You always do. And you reminded me of something as well that tickled me when I heard you speak before in the community course that we are part of with you. And you've also had to learn to navigate with your sea legs and your human legs. And that would always tickle me too, because, and you share a little bit more about that, this mermaid aspect of you having to learn to walk on land in a way too.
Sure. So we're all light beings, right? And light beings, we're energy. And here on Earth, we all chose to be, the words the other day, we're all stardust in physical body form, right? And as a light being, we're not used to this physical body vessel. And I feel like that's part of my purpose here is I'm fascinated with this physical body vessel in this lifetime. But I also sometimes forget that I have a physical body vessel. And when we're high on light, right, and we're expanded, we don't have awareness of our body because our consciousness has expanded beyond our body. And the feet, I'm tall, I'm 6'1", so my feet are kind of far away, especially if, when we live in the heavens and in the clouds, and is I forget to look down. I forget that there's actual ground beneath me. I'm just kind of floating. And so there is a part of this journey where we do float in the heavens. And it's important to allow ourselves to float in the heavens because we're disconnecting from 3D old Earth. We're disconnecting from the matrix. We're disconnecting from all the old programs and conditionings in society. And it's really important for us to allow ourselves to float, and we may kind of look a bit crazy or a bit out there, or is that person on something? We're high on light. And we also need to learn how to navigate the physical world while we're doing it. And so, having our feet being fully present really helps, when we're sort of floating in the ethers and we're having to walk or move or navigate physical objects, right? Is bringing our presence back into our body so that we can be aware that we do have a physical body form, and sort of being very present and understanding okay, I'm going to, move my right foot now, and sometimes we're going to have to talk to our body and be like, okay, right foot needs to move forward a step, and then the left foot's going to move forward. And, you kind of gotta play with it. And we each have to learn how to walk all over again. Right. We all each have to learn how to move through this physical world while being energy and while being pure light. And so navigating the two can be, it can be fun, but it can also be a bit challenging. And it's what I've found is pure presence brings me back inside to remember that I have a body and that I have to walk in order to get somewhere. I can't just float and fly.
And yes, and you're leading beautifully into this area, this field now that you're coming to specialize in many ways. So the transformation that is occurring for us, where we're navigating and moving into new light bodies, and for you, with your experience of your body in one form, the way that you used to use it, and then how it's transforming, and the experiences that you're gaining now in this transformation is invaluable. You're able to, not only with your wisdom and knowledge from everything that you've learned on a cellular level about this physical body, now you're seeing how it is really, really transforming. So speak a little bit more about this, because it's such important information.
Yeah. Yeah, so our human aspect has a carbon-based body, right? It's very dense and it holds a lot of programming in our body. It's very dense. With carbon-based bodies, they have a lot of energy, right? And so when you look at athletes, as an athlete, I had a ton of energy, and I could practice for like 8-10 hours a day and be fine. As we ascend our consciousness and become pure light, we could become light beings, the whole structure of our body shifts and changes, and it turns more crystalline, right? And as we become more energy, we have less physical energy and more, our energy shifts to, it shifts to more being creative and holding a higher level of consciousness. So holding higher levels of consciousness takes our whole everything in order to hold it. And to maintain it, especially when we're around other people. And so a lot of the old energy that went into physical body movement with a carbon-based body, all of that energy kind of gets reprioritized, and it goes into raising our body's consciousness level, right? And raising our body's vibration, and then holding that consciousness level. And then maintaining and sustaining that, and then functioning within our world in order to share whatever it is that we're meant to be sharing, right? To fulfill our soul's purposes. And so, with our light bodies, kind of similar to what I shared earlier about listening, and being fully connected inside with our hearts wide open, is we really need to learn how to listen and honor our light bodies. And our old human aspect used to push through or not honor our light bodies. And this journey is really about, it can be a humbling journey, especially for someone who used to be very physical or an athlete or competed. We spend a lot of time horizontal. We spend a lot of time sleeping to wake up. We spend a lot of time clearing old emotions and patterns and triggers and programs. And a lot of our energy is sort of allocated to rebuilding our light body, because our light body goes through immense rewrites and upgrades and DNA upgrades and repairs, and that's where our energy goes to, because we're prioritizing it, right? So I believe as we sort of evolve on this journey and we remember that we are pure source consciousness light, and we come back to that, our priorities shift, right? And it's just like realigning. Okay, our priority is embodying pure source consciousness light. And so what does that entail? What does that look like? Right? And it looks different in every moment. But the one thing that I've learned that's a constant is learning to keep our hearts wide open, right? Learning to maintain that deep inner connection inside, so that our higher self, our soul, can guide us and show us what's highest aligned for us in each moment, because it's going to be different. It's going to be different for me in this moment than the next moment. And it's going to be different for you in this moment versus the next moment. And so there's not like a one size fits all sort of recommendation of do this, do that. It's really teaching and empowering each one of us how to listen deeper inside, and how to honor, and how to not dismiss the light body's needs. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm also fascinated with us choosing to be here at this time, and what that reflects back to us. So, and also this word being bridges, what does that mean? And coming to understand, well, in many ways we are transformers. We're landing in one frequency, and we're transforming and alchemizing to become and embody another frequency and keep evolving. So for me now, feeling into this body, the words that have been coming through more and more have been the flower body. It's a flower body, Lois, because it's continually blossoming into something new and different. And so that's been of an assistance to me, just to start to understand it differently. And that it's like it is part of our purposes here, that we came to be that, to do that. And then potentially in the near future, there will be higher light bodies here already, who will be doing these different kind of transformations or holding more. We are doing the dense work in a sense. And also it's the builders as well, being the builders of the new, that there had to be the builders who came in to create that foundation, to build upon it. So that we are the grafters in a way, really getting in there and said, okay, yes, we'll do this bit. Although it may be challenging, but to really start to comprehend that too, and the layers to that as well.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. We're definitely, we're bridging heaven on earth, right? Looking at the star planet that I'm from, it was pure heaven, it was pure utopia. And we have those remembrances so that we can bring those frequencies through here on earth. We agreed to come to earth to forget who we are. We forget that we are pure source consciousness light, that we are ascended beings, and to awaken out of that illusion to become pure source consciousness light again, right? And I love your, you did a YouTube video about soul embodiment and really loving the physical body, right? And having it be like a sacred temple. Is our physical bodies are sacred temples. And they are so brilliant and so intelligent, and can the transformation that our bodies go through, from carbon-based to crystalline to plasma, and the structures and the DNA rewrites inside and the upgrades, is so, it's light technology, right? Our bodies carry this innate sense of light technology within us, and all we have to do is get out of our own way. And so I don't remember the question.
Oh, it's okay. It's just beautiful.
But I feel like our mission and our purpose, there was a point and I can't remember what it was.
Don't worry, it'll come back, or it may not. It's fine. But I wanted to speak to you more about, because I'm part of a community that we are in together, I've got to witness you really deepening your connection, and your focus and your commitment to your soul emergence, and really honoring your soul, and to see this transformation, and to be able to feel it energetically, to see the power of what you are accomplishing now in your transformation, in your evolution, and what you're able to share with us, to show us what we are able to accomplish too, and as a guide to your assisting others too, on this journey, because of your own experiences, you're able to share this, but to share with us, because we don't know when we don't know. We were asleep and we didn't know it. And then comes these expansions and a new level of awareness. And then there comes this sight. And so with that, new information comes through you, and the new gifts and abilities, we would say, but it's always been there. It's just us reaching out and being able to access it. So share with us this, how you would I don't know, explain it or share that transformation that's available for everyone?
Yeah. So the common thread that keeps coming back to this, right, is the more our hearts are wide open, the more our vibration raises, the more deeply connected inside that we are, the more our consciousness can expand, and we can access and unlock the codes from inside, right? And so when we expand to see the codes, we're actually going deep inside to unlock a code, and a code is like tons of information, right? And so it takes a while to unlock and read and integrate all of what one code offers. But basically, our soul encoded all of these codes within us for us to unlock along our journey so that we can share our gifts and our abilities with others. And so when a code unlocks, it and we expand to see, it's like, it's the most beautiful experience, right? You've experienced these expansions. It's like nothing else exists except for that one experience, right? And it's real, right? It's so real and it's so tangible, even though it's occurring inside us and inside our consciousness, it becomes real, right? And so one of my expansions, I was actually driving on the road in Kauai, and I expanded to see that nothing's actually real. It's all made up. It's all an illusion. And in that expansion and that awareness, that new realization, it was like, well, if everything's made up, if everything's an illusion, what illusion or what dream do I want to live in? Right? And with that question, it can unlock so much, because it's like, well, I choose to live in heaven. Right? And so then it's like, well, how can we create that experience of heaven in our every breath, with our every movement? Right? And so all of these expansions, it's so visceral, that it's real. It's like a movie playing out within our consciousness, within our field. And that's more real than like an Andara, right? Or a physical object. And the key with the expansions is not forgetting, right? Usually when we expand really big and we have these epiphanies, it's like we feel on top of the world and we just want to live in this bliss and this magic. Then what happens, because our hearts are wide open, right? Our vibration raises. And then all of a sudden, when we contract back down, we go through a massive clearing process to clear and purify all that is in the way of us living from that expanded state fully. And so some people don't like the contractions because they can be intense, and they also show us, but they show us what's in the way. They show us sort of the programs of the beliefs or the wounds that we're holding on to, or the cords of attachment. And that's where the deep inner work comes in, because that's what we see in the contracted state and in the expanded state is the work that we need to do in the physical, so that we can get back to living that expanded state, right? Living as pure source consciousness love. But those contractions are just as important as the expansions, because we can't fully hold that expansion until we've cleared and purified all of the old, all that's not pure inside first. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And such a loving...
It's kind of like riding the waves of like expansion and consciousness. It's an ebb and a flow, and it's learning not to get stuck or attached to one expansion or one contraction, because it's energy, right? It's consciousness showing us what's possible. And
I mean, for me, there have been experiences of, it is like this bipolar, this, and then this, and the depth has been a whole new experience, because my earlier version would be quite sort of very in the clouds, and maybe it feels like it was more sort of like this, but now coming to understand that this is the elevation, the ascension process that is occurring. As you were saying, you have to go in deep to be able to release it. And in those moments, because it was such a foreign experience to feel that depth of density, to actually see it and be in it sometimes, and to just become sort of comfortable, accepting of it, and understand it's just part of the process. Also being able to tell myself, it's an expansion, it's an elevation. Just hold out to allow it to release in whatever way it needs to. It's all part of this.
It's all part of the process, and it's also really important to not attach or identify to a feeling or an emotion or something that you see or feel or experience, right? Emotions or experiences, they're meant to be experienced. They're all energy. So, if you're feeling joy, it's an energy that you're feeling, and it's a vibrational frequency that you're transmitting. If you're in a contracted state and you're feeling like anger or sadness or grief, it's another emotion, which also transmits a lower vibrational frequency. Yet if you're experiencing or feeling it, it's important for you to go all into that so that it can fully clear your body, without attaching to it or judging it for being bad or wrong, or that duality polarity game. To observe it and to honor it, and allow it to move through you. That's the important piece. A lot of people, and myself included, I used to get stuck in the contraction. I used to get consumed and overwhelmed by how intense the contraction state was, that I couldn't see out. And I identified with it. And I thought that was who I was, right? So it's really, really important to not identify really with anything, right? Because that's just sort of an ego game. But to observe it, honor it, and allow it to move through you, especially allowing it to clear your body. Because again, in that expanded state, once you contract, all that you experience needs to be cleared from your physical body so you can maintain that expanded state. And so really all that occurs in the contraction are beautiful gifts showing you. It's kind of like a treasure hunt. It's kind of showing you like, oh, you got to clear this and clear this and clear this and clear this and clear this. And then, oh yeah, I can come back to being pure love again. So it's, using our tools, we can use Andaras, right? Andaras to support us in raising our body's vibration while we're going through sort of the, if you look at it, it's kind of like the expansion feels like heaven, right? It feels like magic and bliss, and the contraction can kind of feel like hell. Hopefully I can say that on here. Yeah. But we have to go through the depths of our being in order to experience the bliss and the magic. Right, that's sort of our reward for, diving deep. And again, none of it is good, bad, right, or wrong, because that's just the duality game. It all just is. And when we don't identify with it, it can move through our body faster, right? And it's just energy. It moves through. I don't believe that. What we believe comes into existence. And so if we believe that, we're not good enough or whatever, like a program, one of my old programs, if I believe that, then I'm going to create a reality where, I am not good enough. But if I recognize that as an ego program and say, oh, I don't believe that anymore, that's just my ego. Then there's a song that I played, I believe I shared it with you guys as well, is anything you can do, I can do better. And so it's like, oh yeah, like that song brings me back into a vibrational frequency. It kind of cancels out the feeling of, oh, I'm not good enough. And it empowers me to be like, oh yeah, I can do that too. So we can use tools such as music or andaras or getting out on Gaia, being in nature, swimming in the ocean or hugging a tree to assist us with moving through that which is uncomfortable. Does that make sense?
Yes. And this is part of what makes you such a wonderful guide as well, because of these experiences that you have had that become a knowing and intelligence within itself that you're able to share. And it's a frequency that can be felt and is of assistance too. And especially because you're also doing mentorship, you're working with on one-to-one levels with others. So share, if you can, some of these experiences, what you enjoy most about these connections that you make with other souls who wish to connect with you and expand in this way, and what you've come to realize this connection is able to utilize.
Yeah. So if you kind of go back to the Archangel Michael character that I connected with, is that's who I want to be for everyone, right? And that's who we all can be. And so, yes, I use my own experiences to share and empower people. Ultimately, I love working with people. I believe in them more than I believe in myself at times. But I can see people's light. I can see the light of people's souls, and I can see how much potential there is. And it's like the biggest gift to witness someone's becoming, someone's evolving, someone's remembering, and someone's like coming out of the old and into the new, right? I love sharing and showing and guiding people that there's a new way, there's a different way. And it doesn't have to be harsh, right? Just because I experienced a bit of a harsh journey, it can be easier and simpler with someone who's been there before, who can guide them through situations so that they can find their own guidance. One big thing for me in my journey is I was really quick in giving my power away to other people. And that was, just one of my programs. But one thing that my soul will not let me do is allow other people to give me their power. I throw it right back on them. And so, the mentorships that I work with people over months, it's not about me telling them what to do or giving them the answers or showing them the way. It's about me supporting them in going deeper inside themselves and discovering their own answers and having their own expansions and new realizations and listening to their own inner guidance as they keep their hearts wide open, raise their body's vibration. Everyone, the mentorship sort of that I offer is kind of the mentorship that I've always wanted, but never could really find it. So do we teach what we need? And it's, just loving people through their journey, loving people through transitions and making radical changes in their life. I've made so many radical changes in my life that it's become, I no longer have to have harsh lessons because I'm open and I'm listening. Right. And it's like, oh yeah, you want me to, buy a one-way plane ticket to this country and change my entire life? Sure, I'll do that, because I've learned if I don't listen, that, that's where the energetic 2x4 comes. And so, kind of having a bit of a different background, a different outlook on life, it empowers other people to kind of be different too, to not fit into society's mold and be like, oh, well, if she can kind of live this crazy life over here, then maybe I can too. And it's kind of giving people permission to do what their soul longs for, yet their human aspect isn't giving them permission to do. So, yeah, I love supporting and empowering people in those ways.
You have so many beautiful gifts that you share. You write wonderful blog posts on your website, sharings from your own experience, and the way that you write is really light-filled and really beautiful and heartfelt. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you began to open up to that, because there's many things there, and also your beautiful collaboration with your father and creating a really lovely book that's an activation within itself, and also possibly linking it up to how this writing began for you. And I know that you had an experience again being hit by this 2x4, a skiing accident, and how that assisted you to open up to writing, and maybe how writing in itself is assisting you too in some way.
Oh yeah. Yes, thank you for bringing all that up. I'm going to go backwards, if that's okay with you, and bring stuff back in if I don't answer the question. But the skiing accident was sort of my last energetic 2x4, if you will. I was running and managing wellness centers, and the company sort of made a big switch in its vision, and it no longer felt aligned with my soul. And it was a very clear, like, this is no longer aligned. Yet my human aspect was stuck on the stability of the income and the prestige of sort of that kind of lifestyle. And there was a fear on my soul was guiding me to open up my own wellness center. And there was a fear and a not feeling good enough about running my own business because I felt like I was too young and my ego was making all these mistakes. Well, my universe had other plans for me. So I went skiing, and the first run of the day, my universe had a snowboarder hit me from behind, and I fell, and it felt like I had torn some ligaments in my knee, and it had occurred like at a really emotionally volatile time in my life. And with my background in health and wellness and fitness and rehabilitation, and I actually worked with orthopedic surgeons as well, I could have done my own physical therapy and I could have walked the surgeon through my surgery. But I was so emotionally raw and vulnerable that like I was done. It was like, beam me up. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't go through the physical therapy, the rehab, or like life in general. Like I'm done. Again, my universe brought an energetic 2x4 to bring me to my knees, to crack my heart wide open so that I would listen. And when I did, my light body took over. Right. And all of a sudden, my light body began to repair my DNA and repair my knee and repair my body. Now, I do have to admit that at the time, I wrote a chapter in a book about this, and my human aspect claimed that I had healed my knee, and that is the ego aspect. However, part of that whole experience for me was reclaiming my power. I used to give my power away to everyone, as well as doctors. And I would have given my power away to doctors and physical therapists and all that stuff. And so for me, it was important to claim that I could actually change my reality. But if we expand back and go to the conscious level that we're at right now, my light body came online and it repaired my knee. And within an hour of crying and resting and writing, like getting the energy, moving the energy out of my physical body, and surrendering to my soul's guidance of running my own business, when I finally surrendered and said, okay, I'll listen, I'll do, my light body took over. And that's when the repair could come in. And so that was the last time that I had to have that sort of harsh 2x4. And then shortly after that, I had an idea. I knew I needed to leave my job, but I didn't quite know how. And so I had an idea. And sometimes when we take action in one direction, we believe that it's for one reason, when it's actually for something completely different. And so I felt like I was creating a business card to go to an angel investing conference to get investors to invest in my vision for a wellness center. Well, I never made it to the wellness conference, angel investing conference, because when I was creating a business card, I actually saw the business card had my dad's photographs on it, one photograph specifically, and a quote. And the quote at the time was, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step." And in that moment, I just needed to take one step outside of my comfort zone to open up a whole new world of possibilities. And in the creation of that card, I then saw a whole line of inspiration with my dad's photographs and inspirational quotes. And so that book was the first project, the first experience that I had that literally was my higher self, my soul being like, get the fuck out of the way and let me move through you. And that book it was like a magical experience. I walked away from my job without a blink and changed my life completely, changed trajectories, course correction. And sort of the rest is kind of history. And that's sort of how I've learned to live my life is to listen, to get out of my own way as a human aspect and to allow my higher self soul to guide and lead and move through. And so that book holds a special place in my heart because that was the first time that I truly got out of my own way. And that's what we all have to do, right? We all have to let our human aspect get out of our own way and allow our higher self soul to lead. And I had never written anything. I was pre-med and into, fitness and health and never wanted to write a book, but our soul has other plans. And that was the beginning of, I was very masculine up until that point. I was very much a doer in the physicality of things. And that was the first time that I allowed pure creation through my body. And out and sharing with the world. And since then, it's been an exploration of how can all of us share our own creation energy with others to inspire, to uplift, to empower. And so that book was the beginning of the rest of my life. And I kind of see that as like a pivotal, my human journey was like before that. And the book was like the beginning of my soul really leading. And allowing that creation energy through. And so, now with writing, it's about going deep inside to unlock and share what will inspire and empower others to discover more about their own journey, and to empower them to continue on the path.
And to close for today, because I hope that we'll be able to connect again in this way. But for today, to look at what because the builder codes have been really important, us understanding what we are building from inside and what this looks like for us, our dreams becoming a reality. And for you, what you are able to share at this time, or what your hopes and dreams are for your near future potentially, or how you see yourself evolving or expanding into new areas, however way you wish to share that with us.
Yeah, it's this is a really, really special year, right? It's a 222 year. And 22 is builder codes, it's unity consciousness. And looking at where we are now, we're in December, right? And so the beginning of this year released a bunch of codes and a bunch of templates for the year. And it's taken us, each one of us in our own different ways, it's taken us all year to, the word I got in October was it's a maturation process, right? Mm-hmm. It's taken us all year to integrate the codes and implement the codes. And sort of we're finishing that up through the December sort of passageway coming up as well, right? What I see and envision and dream and what I've always held as a vision, and I feel like we are getting closer. We're not quite there yet. I see a utopia. I see a utopia world where we're all of us light leaders are coming together and we're living in an eco village, right? Conscious community. And we are each contributing to the whole. We're each sharing our gifts and our abilities and our skills with each other, and also a larger community of people around us, whether it's local as well as global. my dream is for all of us to unite in the physical and to live this and be this together as one light family, as one soul family, as one star family. That's my dream and that's my vision. And I'm very excited to hug you in person and to hug all the beautiful light beings in this world, because each one of us have so many unique gifts and talents and abilities. And when we come together, I think you were mentioning earlier about like the building blocks, and I kind of see us as all puzzle pieces. Each one of us is like a puzzle piece of the great cosmic ocean of life. And when we come together, it's like we fit differently and we add more to the whole, right? And when you have one light being, one piece of the puzzle, but then you add other light beings, other pieces of the puzzle, you grow and you've got this beautiful tapestry woven, where we all unite and come together.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much. You are such a beautiful light. You've been beaming this lovely radiance throughout this conversation. It's been a joy to feel and to connect with you. I feel so much love coming out of you, and I send you so much love and gratitude for everything that you do and you share, and the lovely way that you guide from your heart too. And I'll be sharing all of your details here below this conversation so that people can come and find you easily. And just looking forward to connect again, and just wishing you the best from our hearts for the future and everything that you're creating and building.
Thank you so much, Lois. I really, really appreciate you. I honor your soul's journey and your gifts and all that you're doing and sharing. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart to yours. I love you.